Participants. So in the last session, that is day before yesterday, I had taken a session on curriculum pedagogy. So in that previous session, we have discussed about what should be the curriculum and what kind of pedagogical approach should we follow according to the NEP, what NEP says. Then if we have the curriculum and then we have transacted that curriculum by adopting some suitable pedagogical approaches or practices to the students. Then after that, we have some learning standards and objectives which has to be achieved through our pedagogical practices. Then after that, how can we came to know about that? How the curriculum, to what extent effectively the curriculum has been transacted to the students, or what is the learning outcomes of the students. So for that, what we need assessment. So therefore, the assessment is the continuation of this curriculum pedagogy and assessment. So here I am going to discuss about what are the assessment practices as per NEP 2020. Okay. Then let us know firstly what is assessment. If you want to see the meaning of assessment, because being a teachers and teacher educators and being in the field of teaching, we should know what is assessment, because in our this thing field we have curriculum also, pedagogy also, and we are going to evaluate, we are going to assess our students. Then what is this assessment? So assessment refers to any process of gathering information about student learning. That means it is a process of gathering information about student learning, and that can be interpreted, that is after collecting or after gathering the information, we are going to interpret, we are going to analyze that information, then we are going to interpret, and we are going to use that interpretation, that is as teachers we are going to use that, or it may be used by others, because assessment cannot, we can't limit that, or the scope of that assessment is not only to the field of education but in other fields also. Like if we go to the other fields like in the job or in other working field, even there also the employers are going to assess their employees. So wherever, as we are in the field of teaching, I am using the term teacher. So teacher for guiding the teaching learning process and aggregating student learning at relevant junctures and reporting student progress over time. So assessment is nothing but gathering information about the student learning, and then we have to analyze it and we have to interpret, and we have to, we means the teachers are going to use that interpretation to guide teaching learning process. To guide teaching learning process means what, where, how is my teaching learning, whether my objectives of teaching learning process are achieved or not. And aggregating the student learning at relevant junctures means at different stages of learning we have to know about the student learning. So we have to collect that one and then report that progress, student progress over time, that is assessment. So this is assessment. And we know that how this assessment was in our previous society. So we know that what is that assessment pattern we had followed from our previous society. From ancient society, we have our education system, and we have divided our education system into Vedic period and Buddhist period, Muslim period and medieval period and British period, and after independence also. If we see the assessment pattern, what we have followed from our ancient society, first in the Vedic system of education, where the education is considered as, or education was called as, or it is provided in Gurukula system, and the assessment pattern was oral test or recitation, that is through asking questions, and the students are going to give answers orally. That is, we are going to assess the students orally, or by reciting whatever the teacher has said, the students are going to omit it. So therefore, that is the pattern of assessment in the period of Vedic. Then if we come to Buddhist period of education, again the education was provided in sanghas and in viharas. And again, the assessment pattern was oral only. And if we come to the Muslims period, again in the Muslim period, education was provided in maktabas and madrasas. And again, the pattern of assessment is oral only. And in the year of 1857, matriculation system of examination was introduced. And then in between, the Woods Dispatch has played an important role in the improvement of the Indian education system. And then the Sadler Commission, it has set up secondary and intermediate boards for the examination after the matriculation. Sadler Commission has recommended for setting up of secondary and intermediate boards, and Hatta Committee, it has recommended for assessment, and that assessment has to include only essay type of questions. And the reason for this is, when the matriculation system was introduced here, there was a number of failures happened. So therefore, again, the ATA committee has suggested to assess the students by giving essay type of questions only. So this is the what assessment pattern over the periods of education, or during the different periods of education. And till today, we have came across number of education commissions and committees related to the education. Even these commissions and committees, they have provided, or they had recommended their suggestions regarding the reformations in the examination. Among them, here I have mentioned some committees, where the Tarachand committee, it has recommended for one public exam at the end of the secondary stage. At that time itself, Tarachand committee, it has recommended for one public exam, that is at the end of the secondary stage. And then Second Education Commission, it has identified that there is a lot of burden on the students. So for that, it has recommended to reduce the external examination, and weightage should be given to other activities. Other activities means apart from the academic activities, the weightage should be given to the other co-curricular and other activities. So that is the recommendation by Secondary Commission. And again, Kothari Commission has suggested to improve the evaluation methods. And Ishwar Bhai Patel Committee, it has stressed more on the self-study and self-assessment. And we have Ramurthy Committee and National Knowledge Commission, the recent committees, where even the National Knowledge Commission, it has emphasized on, or it has suggested to bring reformations in the examination system. So therefore, whatever the commissions we had, all the commissions and committees, they had emphasized on the need for revamping students' assessment through examinations for bringing quality and confidence in the system of education. Well, the different commissions and committees are there. All the committees, the main emphasis of this is that it is essential to revamp, change the students' assessment through examinations to bring quality and confidence in the system of education. If you want to bring confidence among your students or confidence in the system of education, then we have to change, or we have to modify the students' assessment pattern. So if we come to the NEP 1968 and 1986, see, the NEP 1968, it has recommended for a shift in the focus of evaluation from certification to improvement in learning. What it has said, that where instead of concentrating on giving the certificates to the students, we have to concentrate on the improvement in learning. Our evaluation should focus on improving the learning of students. That is 1968 and NP. And if we come to 1986, where it has suggested for elimination of excessive element of chance and subjectivity, de-emphasizing memorization, where it has emphasized on to delete or to leave the memorization, just what we call recitation. ಬಾಯಿಪಾಠ ಮಾಡೋದು ಕಂಠಪಾಠ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಒತ್ತನ್ನ ಕೊಡಬೇಡಿ, ಅದನ್ನ ಬಿಟ್ ಹಾಕಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ದ NEP 1986 has suggested for de-emphasizing the memorization, and it has introduced CC, that is continuous and comprehensive evaluation, and use of grades in the place of marks, and introduction of semester system from secondary stage in a phased manner. So that is the 1986 NEP. So what it has suggested, where we have to de-emphasize the memorization and use the continuous comprehensive evaluation and use the grades in the place of marks. Then here we have to see the role of NCF. What is this National Curriculum Framework? Till today, we have 1975 to 1988, 2000, 2005, and the recent one is NCFSC, National Curriculum Framework for Secondary Education 2023 is there, which is based on the guidelines given by NEP 2020, which gives the guidelines for the curriculum, pedagogy, assessment, learning standards, and learning outcomes. So here, National Curriculum Framework, it serves as a guidelines for syllabus, textbooks, teaching practices, and assessment of learning. It provides guidelines for how to assess the learning. So therefore, based on the significant recommendations of whatever the committees and commissions and policies or documents we had, so based on that, the National Curriculum Framework is going to implement strategies. It is going to provide strategies with relevance to the areas of teaching, learning, and assessment. So NCF is going to provide strategies or pattern for the teaching, learning, and assessment for the qualitative improvement in the entire school education system. So therefore, NCF is one of the main part in the assessment of the learning, which gives or which provides implementation strategies based on the recommendations of the policies or policy documents. So till today we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 national curriculum frameworks. Then coming to the assessment field, with reference to the assessment of students, today we are facing number of challenges. So in that I had listed some challenges, current challenges with reference to the assessment. So in our schools at present, what we are doing, our assessment is more mechanical and routinized. More mechanical and routinized means just like a machine goes on, no routine, it has become a routine work. And this routine work, what it is going to do, it is focusing on measuring rote learning of content, just it is concentrating on the content learning, rote learning, than measuring achievement of competencies and learning outcomes. We are not worried about the whether the child has achieved the competency or the ability, and yet we have a good learning outcomes. Instead, we are measuring the rote learning of content, just taking the what is their achievement in the content, whatever the question, what we say achievement test, we are going to give the achievement test, the students are going to give answers for that. So that is to what extent they have learned the content, but we don't know what are their competencies, what are their learning outcomes. And another one challenge is where this assessment process, it is generating fear among the students, and it labels and segregate the students based on the marks. I think you know about that in the previous like after the introduction of semester system and the grades, we used to have the rank system where we are going to allot the ranks to the students based on their marks. Just in a difference of 1 marks, the students are going to lose their rank. So because of that, what happened, that is, we have observed number of evil things in our society. So that is, we are going to label and segregate the students based on the marks, whatever they have scored or achieved, gained in the test and examination. So that is another one challenge in the field of assessment. And then stress is the another major challenge what we are facing even today. That is, day before yesterday, there is a lot of confusion whether to have board exams for the 9th standard and 5th standard. The students who had written 2 exams have been stopped in between. All of you know about that. So in that period, we have to observe what is the stress or tension the students have experienced. So see, the board examinations, they are going to cause, or they are responsible for stress at grades 10 and 12 and even that is more, and which leads to deep anxiety among the students and families, which has become a universal problem or challenge in our country. That is another one challenge. And another one, the current structure of the board examinations. So not at all, maybe in all the schools are in this thing. These board examinations forces students to concentrate only on a few curricular areas. They are not worried about the holistic development of the children or holistic development of the students. So they are concentrating only on the curricular areas. So these are some of the challenges which we are facing in today's society. Then how can we overcome these challenges? So keeping all this in background, the NEP 2020 has recommended a new pattern for assessment. It has recommended for a new or a innovative idea or strategy with reference to assessment. So according to NEP, what it states with reference to assessment is that where the assessment, the main aim of assessment should be shifting from summative and primarily testing the rote memorization skills to the other skill or other one that is more regular and formative. See, from summative to formative and primarily testing, instead of testing the rote memorization, go for the competency based testing. So we have to shift from the rote memorization to competency based, and from summative to formative. So that has to promote the learning and development of students, and it has to test the higher order skills like analysis, critical thinking, and conceptual clarity. So if you see our question papers, most of the questions will be at the they are going to be at the level of knowledge only, where uh, there is no provision for the measurement of skill and other higher order thinking skills like analysis, critical thinking, reasoning, like that. Because of that reason only, most of our students are not able to take up the competitive exams, because in the competitive exams, most of the questions are at the application level. They are going to ask questions at the higher order level only. So therefore, NEP emphasizes on the formative and where it should help the students to develop the higher order skills. So, and the primary as purpose of the assessment should be for learning, and it has to focus on the optimize learning and development for all students. We have to nothing, we are not worried about whether the student has learned the content or not, like that, but we have to optimize the learning. To what extent the child or the student can learn, we have to enhance that one. So that is the main uh, proposition given by NEP 2020, where it emphasizes the optimizing learning. And already I told it should regular formative and competency based assessment. It should focus on assessment for learning, not assessment of learning. And it should test higher order skills, and it should help the entire schooling system to revise continuously teaching learning processes, and that assessment should help the school system to revise our teaching learning process also. Then I told assessment in the previous slide, that is assessment of learning. So here the NEP 2020, it has suggested we have to look the three approaches of assessment. So that three approaches are assessment of learning, assessment for learning, and assessment as learning also. Then what is this assessment of learning? It is nothing but measurement of achievement of student learning, where we have to measure the achievement. Then assessment for learning means what it refers, what it means, evidence of student learning gathered by the teacher. Being teachers, we are going to gather the information that provides inputs to guide our teaching learning process. That is, we are going to take the evidence of the teacher student learning, what we say student evaluation, like that. And then another one method is their assessment as learning. So it is nothing but where it is a non-threatening tools for self-reflection and introspection, where the students on their own, they can self-reflect and introspect themselves. So where they become developmental and constructive in nature, and that is called as assessment as learning. They are going to assess themselves by learning. So these are the three approaches which is provided by NEP 2020, so that in school education we have to look into these three aspects of the assessment. Then coming to the types of assessment, already I told that where the NEP emphasizes on the formative assessment. So formative assessment means nothing but just had given a two table in comparing both the summative and formative. Formative means it is continuous and ongoing. But in the summative, what happens at the end of a lesson or at the end of the year, we are going to assess the children. And in case of formative, what happens? They are used to track students' learning to provide ongoing feedback that can be used by teachers to improve their teaching and by students to improve their learning. Yet the formative assessment is going to help both the teacher and students to improve their teaching learning process. And the formative assessments are they do not have any strong consequences like what I told summative assessment. And then some examples for this summative assessment are like in between in the classes, what we are going to have internal assessment 1, 2, 3, like that. So, and in between we are going to observe students behavior in class, asking students to draw a concept map, like that. But in case of summative assessment, what we are going to do, term and test or a board exam, that results are going to be used only for the purpose of informing teaching and learning. But here in case of in between, we can give suggestions to the students to improve their learning, as well as teachers also to improve their teaching. Then again, what kind of marks card should be given to the students? So here NEP 2020, it says that progress card, whatever we are going to give to the students, should be holistic. That means it should include all the aspects of the students, and it should be 360 degree. See, the progress card should be a 360-degree multi-dimensional report card for all students, and it should include all the three domains: cognitive domain, affective domain, and psychomotor domain. And this assessment is done by self-assessment, assessment by teachers, peer assessment, and assessment by parents. That means it includes parents also, and school-based assessment also. And here it is a link between the school and home, where yes.
Ma'am, I couldn't see the slide. One slide I'm
I
seeing
will
like
go to
that.
the previous
Oh,
slide. I
okay,
didn't.
ma'am.
So
Okay.
just I want to
Doesn't.
show this diagram, no? So I will go to the previous slide. Whatever
Okay.
the points I had given in the previous slide, that was
First slide,
summarized.
I can see, ma'am. Only first slide I can see.
Yeah, I will go to there. Huh? Okay. See this only. So here it should be a holistic 360-degree
Madam,
multi-dimensional report, and it should reflect all the three domains: cognitive,
madam, there is no change in slides at all.
and the progress card of all students.
Hello?
It is school. It includes school-based assessment, and
Madam, there is
this
no change in slides
is
at all.
communicated to school, from schools to parents, and it will be completely redesigned by states under the guidance of National Assessment Center, NCRT and SCRTs. And it also includes self-assessment, peer assessment, and progress of the child. That is what I told, self-assessment in project-based, inquiry-based
Madam,
learning,
only first slide is being showed.
group work, etc.
Madam, there is no change in slides at all.
And it is a link, that progress card holistic, it is a link between the school and the home, and it will be accompanied by parent teachers meetings, where we are going to involve parents in the children's holistic development. And it also provide information to both the teachers and parents how to support each student's learning, both in the classroom and out of the classroom. And here we can use artificial intelligence based software to help to track their growth. That means artificial intelligence based software can be used by students to track their growth through their school years, based on the data, learning data, and interactive questionnaires by parents, students, and teachers, to provide students about their strengths, areas of interest, and needed area of focus, and help them to make optimal learning, optimal career choices. That is, according to their interests, they can select their career. And whatever the points here are discussed was presented in this slide. That is what I told. It is a 360-degree multi-dimensional report card, and it should include cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domain. And then this assessment is done by assessment by parents. What I told, there is a link between the home and the school, and this is peer assessment is also there, assessment by teacher is also there. And we can use this artificial intelligence based software to track the students, where students can track their growth by the years. And I told, and this is going, progress card should be redesigned by the states with the help under the guidelines of NCRT, SCRT, and it include the progress of the children based on their project or quiz role, etc. And then coming to the public examinations, where we know about the public examinations, and these public exams are going to take up most of the time of our students with excessive exam coaching and exam preparation. I think, being a parents or being teachers, or if you have observed teachers working in the schools or in some other levels, you could have observed that most of the students are always involved in the getting prepared for the exam. That too, especially with the PU students, what is happening, most of the students are oriented towards getting ready for the CET, NEET, or JEE, like that. So But with the classes itself, they are going to attend the coaching classes. So most of their time is going up in excessive exam coaching and exam preparation. And these exams also force students to learn a very narrow band of content or material in a single stream. See, the single stream means whether you are in the from the science stream, you have to learn that only. Arts, you have to learn that one, or commerce, like that. But here, this we have to redesign these board exams or public examinations.
Excuse
We
me,
can
ma'am.
encourage holistic development by discouraging the coaching
Pusha, ma'am.
culture, exam preparation. Just by coaching or by exam preparation, we have to give or we have to concentrate towards the holistic development. And you want which slide? It is changing, no? Somebody has sent
No.
message.
No, madam, there is
Madam,
no changing
first
the
slide.
slides at all.
Slide ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್.
ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ?
ಇಲ್ಲ
ಇಲ್ಲ
ಮೇಡಮ್.
madam.
First slide only see madam. First slide only.
One second. I will once again I will share it. Can you see it? Now I am going with the slide public examinations.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. It's not changing at all.
Ah,
It's not changing at all.
it is
It
not
is only
changing.
first slide.
You are still in the first slide.
Just first slide, ma'am.
Yes,
Just
ma'am.
sharing the
Yes, ma'am.
screen.
Still now.
You can.
Assessment only.
It is changing, no?
No madam.
One second. Now can you?
ಈಗ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ madam.
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Please tell me whether it is changing or not.
Yes, ma'am.
It is changing?
Now it's changing madam.
Okay. So we are here, public examinations. I am going to the content public examinations. Can you? Can you see the slide of public examinations?
Yes, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, madam.
Okay. So we will proceed. So what the NEP says, we have to redesign the board examinations or public examinations to encourage the holistic development. Holistic development means where we have to give, we have to focus on all the domains of the child, like cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domain. And then students should be given freedom to choose range of subjects in which they take board exams depending on their individualized interests. That means based on their interest, freedom should be given to students to select their subject. And board exams made easier. Easier in what sense? That the test should primarily assess or it should attest only the core capacities or competencies rather than content memorization. Instead of testing their content memorization, go for the testing of their capacities and competencies. That should be a change in our public examination. In continuation to this, again, NEP has told to that all students should be allowed to take up the board exams up to 2 occasions during any given school year, one main examination and one for improvement. That means two board exams, at least two board exams they have to taken in their school year, one for the main examination and one for the improvement. And then to reduce the pressure and coaching culture, the exam board should develop viable models of board exams like annual or semester or modular board exams, or in some certain subjects question paper may be redesigned to have two parts. That means objective type with multiple choice questions and other of a descriptive type. That means the question paper should include both objective type and the objective type means that is MCQ what we say, and other part should be a descriptive type. And then in consultation with NCERT, this SCRT's Board of Annual Examinations, this National Assessment Center, PARAK, in the next slide, I have details about the PARAK. They will prepare guidelines for the NEP 2020 recommendations on assessment. That means these SCRTs, NCTE, NAC and PARAK are responsible for the prepare guidelines for the assessment as per the NEP 2020 recommendation. So where even it has provided guidelines to the teacher education field also. That is, if you want transformation in the assessment system by 22-23 academic session, guidelines for teacher education programs shall also be developed. Okay, so that is the recommendations of NEP with reference to public examination. Slides are moving now. Okay. So coming to the reforming examination to the level of 9 to 12.
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Already I told that where we have to test the core competencies or capacities of the child instead of memorization, and viable model like annual, semester, modular exam should be provided, and guidelines should be provided by prepared by NCERT and in consultation with the SCRTs and DOEs and PARAK. PARAK means performance assessment review analysis of knowledge for holistic development. And these should be the examination reforms with reference to the 9 to 12. And this, while reforming the examinations, it has suggested to set up a national assessment center, that is PARAKH. The full form is Performance Assessment Review Analysis of Knowledge for Holistic Development. It is a standard setting body under MHRD, and this PARAK is going to fulfill some of the basic objectives of setting the norms, standards and guidelines for the student assessment and evaluation for all recognized school boards of India. And it also guides the State Achievement Survey and National Achievement Survey. And it takes up the National Achievement Survey and monitors achievement of learning outcomes and encourages and helps the school boards to shift their assessment pattern towards meeting the skill requirements of the 21st century, and with reference to the or in accordance with the objectives of the policy. And the center advise the school boards regarding new assessment patterns and latest research also. See, whatever the researches are happening in the field of assessment, the PARAK is going to disseminate that researchers' findings to the field of assessment, or to the teachers or the schools or to the personnel who are related with the assessment. And then it also an instrument for sharing of best practices among school boards. It shares the best practices of assessment among the school boards, and it also ensures equivalence of academic standards among learners across all school boards, whatever may be the type of school boards, whether it is CBSE, ICSE or state boards, it is going to ensure the equivalence of academic standards. And then from grade 1 to 8, if we come to the school education where 1 to 8, grades 1 to 8, where it emphasizes on the key stage assessment. That means census assessment at the key stages in grade 3, 4, 5, 3, 5 and 8 to track achievement and achievement of critical learning outcomes, and testing to focus on achievement of essential learning outcomes, moving away from the rote learning, and assessment of core concepts and knowledge, higher order skills, and already I told application in real life situations, and it should concentrate on results of school examinations, and whatever the results we are going to get from the school examination should be used only for the developmental purposes and for continuous monitoring and improvement of schooling system, but not for the labeling or segregation of the students. And we have to move from the rote learning, and we have to assess to what extent students have achieved their concept or knowledge or higher order skills. So for this, from grade 1 to 8, guidelines will be prepared by NCERT in consultation with the Board of Assessment, and I told National Assessment Center for School Education, and teachers prepared for a transformation in the assessment system by 22-23 to align with the National Curriculum Framework 2020. Then coming to the National Assessment Center is another one center associated with the assessment, where it is a standard setting body under the Ministry of Education. The previous one is under MHARD, PARAKH. This is under Ministry of Education. And again, this National Assessment Center is going to set norms and standards for the assessment and evaluation, guides the State Achievement Survey, conducts the National Achievement Survey, and monitors learning outcomes in the country, and advises the school boards regarding new assessment patterns. And then coming to the higher education level. So the higher education, that is universities, are allowed to conduct the similar exams, but still an organization named National Testing Agency, which is a premier expert autonomous testing organization designed to conduct an entrance examination for undergraduate and graduate admissions and fellowships in higher educational institution. So in the previous, what we are told, we have National Assessment Center, PARAK and all that. At the university or at the higher education level, we have national testing agencies, and this is going to conduct entrance examination for the graduate, undergraduate and graduate, both admissions and fellowships. And it serves as a that means the universities can take up the services of this national testing agency for common entrance exam, rather than each university conducting their own entrance exam. Through this, what we can do, we can reduce the burden on students, universities and colleges. So a common entrance test will be conducted by National Testing Agency for all the universities to take up the admissions and to provide the fellowships. And then how we can implement, what are the implementation strategies, whatever suggested by NEP 2020. So for that, we have to prepare new assessment patterns for all stages of education, whether it is preparatory, foundational, secondary, or middle or higher education. We should prepare a new assessment patterns and building a culture of both formative and adaptive assessment in schools. That is formative, give emphasis for the formative assessment, And capacity building of teachers to undertake assessment as learning and assessment for learning. I told what is assessment as learning and assessment for learning instead of assessment of learning. Assessment as learning means where we have to make the students to introspect themselves. Assessment for learning where teachers can have the assessment of their teaching learning process by students. And capacity build, we have to build the capacity of the paper setters and moderators for new assessment pattern. That means, yes, of course, we the teachers are going to be the members of the BOE and we are going to set the question papers. So our capacity should be built up, it should be enhanced. And then preparation of question banks for competency based items that can test the higher order skills. And then development of assessment patterns and evaluation procedures to hold the state census exams in grade 3, 5, and 8. And then redesigning of the report card for school-based assessment to communicate the child's progress to parents. And development of IT-based tracking system. What I told, artificial intelligence should be taken up as a support to make the students to track their progress. So IT-based tracking system should be developed by all the states or UTs to track the progress of learners from grade 1 to 12, and develop strategies or plans to reduce the burden of exams, that is that is what we call public examinations or board examination. And rename the compartment exams as improvement exams. I don't know how many of you know, at the university level we have internal assessment, C1, C2, like that. If the one student because of some technical reasons or personal reasons is not able to take up the first test, internal test, he will, or if the student has taken but still he is not satisfied whatever the marks he has gained, another chance will be given to the student, and that chance is known as improvement test. So like that, we have to rename the improvement exams and strengthen these exams by CBSE and other boards. And then review the subjects offered by CBSE and other BOAs at the secondary and senior secondary level, and prepare the common norm standards and guidelines for assessment and evaluation of secondary education. A common norms and standards should be prepared for the secondary education in alignment with the NCF 2020 in accordance with the National Curriculum Framework. So with this, I thank you all for your patience listening. So if any questions, please. What is the time now? What is the time?
4:23, madam.
Okay. I think I little bit fast.
Ma'am, can you show the 2, 3, and 4 slide number 2, 3, and 4?
Yes, Vasundhara Kumari, a little bit louder. You want?
I want to see the 3, 4, and 2, 3, and 4 number slide.
Okay,
ma'am.
starting
Slide number
slides.
3. Yeah, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Okay. This is the first slide about assessment. And I had discussed about the assessment pattern about that is throughout the period, through different periods of education system. And then what is the what are the recommendations of different committees and commissions in post-independent India?
Again, ma'am, couldn't see the slides, ma'am.
Vasundhara, a little bit louder, I can't.
Again, ma'am, couldn't see the slides.
You
First
can't,
first
but
slide.
it is moving.
Yeah, ma'am.
It's moving. Can you
Move
now?
ಆಗ್ತಾ
Moving
ಇಲ್ಲ.
my side,
Move
ma'am.
ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್, ಮೂವ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ.
What is the problem? Now, can you?
ಮೂವ್ ಆಗ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್.
Is it is moving now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, now
Yes, madam.
moving.
Yes, madam.
Yes, this is the first slide about assessment and assessment pattern over different periods of education system. And that is the recommendations of the different commissions and committees in the post-independent India. And then what NEP 1968 and 1986 recommended for the examination or assessment, and how the national curriculum framework is responsible for the assessment, where the national curriculum framework is going to provide the implementation strategies in the areas of teaching, learning, and assessment based on the recommendations of the committees and commissions. Okay, so now also whatever the recommendations given by NEP 2020, the NCF 2020, National Curriculum Framework 2020, and another one, National Curriculum Framework for School Education is there 2023. It has given an elaborative details regarding the curriculum, pedagogy, assessment, learning standards, and learning outcomes for the different stages. What I day before yesterday's session, what I told for the foundational stage, preparatory stage, middle stage, and secondary stage, it has given how to assess them. And then this is the slide of challenges we are facing in the field of assessment at present. In the present context, these are the challenges we are facing in the society, where our assessment pattern, what I told. Now also, if we consider the PU students, they are more mechanical, and they are measuring, we are going to measure their rote learning of content. We are just measuring their content, whether the child is going to get 100 out of 100. If you take your CET or JE or something, again, just we are assessing their content, whether they know content or not. So therefore, what it says, we have to emphasize on measurement of competencies and learning outcomes. And this assessment, the present assessment system is going to generate fear and labeling and segregation. Generating fear means the student have a fear of whether I'm going to get failed, like that. And labeling and segregation means based on marks, means based on the marks what the child or the student is going to secure in the exams or in the test. For example, for how out of 100 the child is going to secure 90, we are going to give him the first place. What about the other child who has got 89 marks? We are going to put him in the next place, like second place. So see, just 1 marks is the difference. We are labeling him as a second place. So to avoid that one, and because of this labeling and segregation itself, we have faced significant social consequences. Social consequences, being a parents and a neighbors or a citizens of this society, we have observed that one. And then it creates deep anxiety among the students and families. Most of you are the parents, if you have a child in your house, like from the 5th standard or 9th standard, so we have a lot of confusion whether to have the board examination or not. So it is going to create a stress and leading to the deep anxiety among students and families. And then if we come to the current structure of this assessment, where we are concentrating more on the curricular areas, the child who is good apart from this curricular area, like co-curricular or extracurricular activities, we are not going to measure that one, and we are not going to consider that one. Just we are focusing on the curricular areas, and we are going to measure the child on curricular areas only. So that is also another challenge. So what it says, for that purpose, we have to shift from the summative to the formative assessment. And instead of testing rote memorization skills, we have to test higher order skills like analysis, critical thinking, and conceptual clarity, whether the child has achieved the competency of higher order skill or whether the competency of analysis, critical thinking, and conceptual clarity. That should be the assessment pattern. And the primary assessment should be the indeed be for learning, not for testing, where we have to see whether the child has learned. So that is going to help both the teacher and student, and also the school at large, where it helps to continuously revise our teaching learning process to make the child to learn at his optimal level and the holistic development of all students. So in that background, what NEP says is we should have a assessment system which is regular, formative, and competency based, and it should promote learning and development of students, and it should focus on the assessment for learning, not on assessment of learning. Assessment for learning, and it should test higher order skills, and it should help schooling system in revising the teaching learning process, that how we can optimize the learning and how we can bring changes in our teaching learning process. So this assessment should help to bring changes, continuously revise our teaching learning process. And then I told there are 3 aspects of assessment, where while assessing in the school education, we have to look into all these 3 approaches of assessment, like assessment of learning, assessment for learning, and assessment as learning. So assessment of learning, what it says, it is measurement of achievement of student learning, what student has achieved. For example, take up a subject like science or history or Kannada or English. We are going to give a question paper to the student, and we are going to assess the child based on whatever the answers given by the child. That is content we are assessed. Achievement of student learning, to what extent the student has achieved. And then assessment for learning means what, where for learning it refers to evidence of student learning gathered by the teacher. Here the teacher is going to collect information, okay, evidences of student learning, And this evidences of student learning is going to provide input, or it guides the teaching learning processes. That means where being a teacher, based upon the evidence of my student learning, to what extent my child or my student has learned, whatever the content I taught, I may use that as a guide for my teaching learning process improvement. That means based on that, I can improve my teaching learning process. That is assessment for learning. And another one is assessment as learning, where this when the assessments are introduced as non-threatening tools, means here in the assessment of learning, what we are going to do, we are going to measure achievement of learning. So again, it is like a threat for the child. The child is fear of test or exams. And here also, when the teacher is going to gather the evidences of student learning, again same thing. But assessment as learning, here it is introduced as a non-threatening tools for self-reflection. That means child is going to reflect on his own, and he or she introspect herself or himself. So through that, they become developmental and constructive in nature. They are going to develop on their, yes, I am lagging behind in this area. I'm not able to learn this. So because of that, they will be able to learn. So that is referred as assessment as learning. And then here I had differentiated formative and summative assessment. Formative means what we now we are having, that is a continuous evaluation. That is stage by stage we are going to assess the child. But in the summative assessment, what happens at the end of the year, that is at the end of the whole school, at the end of the whole class, like if the child completes 8th standard, and the last we are going to assess the child. So because of that, what happens, we are not able to find out where the child is lagging behind. If we are going to track the students learning stage by stage, we can provide feedback to both the teachers. For teachers, what purpose? To improve their teaching, and for students to improve their learning. And these formative assessments, then they do not have any strong consequences, means that is they are not going to affect the child. Okay, but in the summative assessments, what happens, what I told, the current challenge, that is we are going to start labeling or segregate the child. So examples for these formative assessments are in between. We are going to conduct a small test, unit test, or like that. And like in the semester system, we have internal assessment, that is the formative assessment. And in the summative assessment, we have term and test or a board exam. And results of summative exams are used for used for the to find out where the child stands. And this summative assessment results can also be used for the formative purposes, like informing about the teaching and learning. But here in formative assessment, it helps both the students and teachers to improve their teaching and learning respectively. That is formative and summative assessment, where the NEP 2020 emphasizes on the formative assessment. And again, the NEP continues with how should be the progress card. What kind of progress card, or what kind of how we can have a multi-dimensional report of a child. So 360-degree means from all the angles we have to see the child, where it should reflect all the dimensions of the child, where what is his development in the cognitive domain, in the psychomotor domain, and in the affective domain. So we have to mention the uniqueness of each learner in all these three domains, not only concentrating on the cognitive domain alone. And this progress card of the students is based on the school based assessment. It is a school-based assessment, and we are going to give that to the parents. And this progress card is designed by states and union territories under the guidance of the National Assessment Center, NCERT and SCERTs. And this assessment, it includes self-assessment also, peer assessment also, and teacher assessment also. And the progress of the child, not only self, peer and teacher assessment, we are going to consider the progress of the child in the project-based and inquiry-based learning. For that purpose only, in primary level schools, the teachers are going to ask the children or the students to prepare their projects, to bring up their projects. So how much, to what extent the children are involved in the project-based learning, inquiry-based learning, quizzes, role plays. So we have to consider that also, to what extent child has progressed in this. And then we can have this artificial intelligence.
ಅವರೇ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಪಾಪ.
ಸರ್ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಸರ್.
ಕೋಆರ್ಡಿನೇಟರ್.
ಸರ್ ಇಲ್ಲ.
Okay, the same thing was depicted in the picture. And then I told about the public examination, where we have to discourage the coaching culture. Instead, we have to encourage holistic development, give freedom to select the subjects, and make the exams easier, where we have to test the core capacities or competencies, and then allow to take up the board exams on two occasions. At the one is the main examination and another one is for improvement. And then we should have a question paper with objective type and the essay type questions. And these question papers or the assessment patterns should be decided in consultation with the SCERTs, NAC or NCERT. And all these guidelines should be in accordance with the NEP 2020. And we have to reform the examination through having the semester system exam, modular exam, annual exam, like that. And then PARAK is the another one, National Assessment Center, which sets norms, standards, guidelines for the assessment and evaluation of these school boards. And then it is an instrument to share the best practices and advise the schools regarding new assessment patterns. And again, what are the examination reforms for the grade 1 to 8? And I told about the National Assessment Center, what are the objectives of National Assessment Center. And National Testing Agency is for at the higher education level to conduct the common entrance examination. And these are some of the implementation strategies for the new assessment pattern, how we can make it effective. Okay, thank you. Nanjan Swami sir is online.
Yes,
Okay,
madam.
I
Yes,
think
madam.
time is over.
Yes,
Sir,
madam. Yes, madam. It's 4:45. Dear participants, if you have any queries, please go ahead. If there are no queries from the participant side, I request one of the participants to propose vote of thanks to Professor Pushpa madam. I request one of the participants to propose vote of thanks. Anybody?
Sir, myself, Dr.
Yes, yes.
Shantaraju.
Yes, go ahead.
Pushpa madam working education department, University of Mysore. In I see last 20 years in this department. As a very excellent resource person. And then I see ma'am come to my PhD Viva also in physical education department of University of Mysore.
okay.
Ma'am, last 1 hour discussion current challenges in NEP and assessment type of patterns, NEP 1986, 1968,